the service. Nobody has even thought about it. In every year in Sindh alone, we have almost like 100 people, 100 police officers who get martyred during the course of the duty in encounters with the police, with the dacoits and criminals and things like that. So that's a very, very large number, and similarly 200 to 300 people they get injured.
Right.
So I think so. Unless we are able to do that, that we are able to differentiate between the police officers' salaries and the rest of the public servants' salaries, that can go a long way. You see in the case of the motorway police,
we
have an example. They get paid well, and there's Transparency International and others have said that that is the only department which is corruption-free in Pakistan.
But it works in a different way also. It's sort of privately run, so to speak, and you know, it's on a take or pay contract, the whole motorway. So it's all part of the package.
No, but they still can. They are prone to corruption, but they are not involving themselves.
Motivated.
They are not motivated.
Yeah,
because they are paid well. They get the transport. They are picked up. They are dropped to the point of duty. They don't want to lose their jobs. So
absolutely.
And the accountability process is
better. Well, accountability. Well, as you said, you know, it's the police and teachers, and unfortunately in this country one hears that at least in the government schools the teachers don't work. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back. Well, we've been talking about violence and about the problems with violence in society and what the police is doing, but we haven't really talked about why we accept violence so easily. And so it seems happily, if that's a really odd thing to say, but I think that people do. They just say, "Chalo, you know, Allah ki marzi" kind of thing, and they walk away. Why do you think, Seema?
I think part of it has to do with what we can say is the tribalization of Islamic laws. I mean, having worked on the issues of violence against women in research for so many years now, what I have seen is that instead of tribal laws being interpreted in the spirit of Islam, instead we are interpreting Islam by the letter and spirit of tribal laws. So I think this whole tribalization of the way we look at our own religion, and because we call ourselves an Islamic state, for everything Islam is a reference point. I feel that maybe it shouldn't be, but that's the way it is. If we start from there, then what we are seeing is the tribalization of Islamic law. And then if you just look at the way what we have done with the hudud ordinances, I mean, I cannot imagine anybody expecting, accepting them as being part of any kind of system of justice. Look at the way evidence is treated there. I mean, you were just talking about evidence little while ago. So I think that we cannot even begin to make a dent in destroying the tolerance for violence in our society if we continue to work on those laws. Have to be repealed, and repealed completely, and they have to be replaced by those parts of the penal code that they had taken apart. I think that needs to be done. And then when we talk about combating these codified and uncodified tribal and local laws, I think there needs to be much more debate and discussion on these. We just accept them and we say, oh, this is culture, so we mustn't touch it. Everybody says that, you know, when donors pump in money, they say, who's going to go against tradition?
No, but I don't think so. That's I don't agree with you. I think there is already a lot of discussion and debate going on in the society, in the country, about hudud laws, and it's now being openly, even the President has said that I think there's a need for us to revisit it or to look at it. So I think that's not true that we are not aware as a society, that we are not talking about it.
I wasn't talking about...
we are talking about the hudud laws, that there is a need for them to be changed or looked at again.
Okay.
So I think that's the first
or repealed.
Step. Or
no,
I'm not saying
we're not talking about that yet.
No, we can't talk about that repeal straight away. I think what I'm saying is, few years ago you weren't able to talk about them at all. So it was a no-go area, or it was a taboo at that time. But
sounds like certain parts of Karachi.
Yeah.
I
today
agree.
we are talking about it, and we are even talking at the level of the government that yes, there is a need to talk, look at them and see what changes can be brought
Why
about,
do you think?
which should be in conformity with the Islamic injunctions.
No, but I'm saying that we are not discussing the tribal laws.
No, but why do you think we're willing to talk about this now? You know, is it because we're under pressure from the West not to be so sort of militant Islam, or?
I think we are under a lot of pressure from the civil society. I think
within Pakistan.
From within Pakistan,
Yes,
from within the society.
But we've always been under pressure from civil society. Civil society has been fighting the Hudud ordinances since the time of Zia ul Haq. You know, it's been almost 20 years that they've been fighting this.
So they have achieved some success now.
And maybe there's a receptive ear in the government today.
Yes, because the National Commission
exist.
on the Status of Women has also called for its repeal. I think that is a big step.
It's
very
a huge
big step forward.
But you know, every organization that was reasonably liberal and thinking has called for the repeal of the Hudud ordinances. But this is the first time we've actually seen movement.
Exactly.
Okay, and I actually wonder if this is because of pressure from the US.
I'm not sure about that. Why would the US be interested in whether we have the Hudud ordinances or not?
You know, we don't want to look like a retrograde Islamic state. We want to look like this modern, enlightened Islamic state.
Yeah, but then you're saying this is what we want to look like.
Because that's what they want us to look like.
I don't know, the way the trend is going in the US itself towards right-wing politics, I don't know whether it makes a difference one way or another.
No, but you can be right-wing Christian but not right-wing Muslim. You have to be modern enlightened Muslim, right-wing Christian is fine.
No, I don't think so. I think this is probably a grassroots phenomenon, and I think that it's going to probably hopefully keep gaining momentum, and if there's going to be any change, it's going to come from within, not without.
But you see, the Hudud ordinances is, that's one thing. What about local practices? What about tribal laws? What about Pakhtunwali, for example? That is not under debate. That is what I'm talking about, that we have to bring those under debate as well. We just say, oh, this is their culture, or this is something we shouldn't touch, or we should just accommodate it somehow in our judicial system. Why? I mean, if you're all Pakistanis, we should be living under the same law, at least one law.
As you were saying in the break, you know, you've got all these MNAs who are sitting in the National Assembly representing the, well, so-called FATA now, isn't it? That's now the northern area, something polite like that. And, you know, they legislate for Pakistan, but the law doesn't apply to them.
Yeah. So they are legislating for laws that will apply to others, but not to themselves.
Absolutely.
I think there's something really wrong there.
And so, how do you redress that?
I don't know. I don't have any answers. But what I want to say is that we have to bring these tribal laws under much wider discussion. We have to be open enough to say this is not right, this does not meet with the Constitution of Pakistan or with laws of Pakistan, and therefore this should be put aside. And that will help us also deal with the jirgas. You see, the jirgas are handing out or meting out so-called justice under those tribal laws. They are not referring to our constitution. They are not referring to our constitutional laws. And as I said earlier, we have this plethora of so many different kind of laws, and this interplay allows many people to get away without being apprehended for what an ordinary person may consider to be a criminal activity. They continue to get away with it. So I think there has to be clarity in our laws, and eventually there should be, if it's one country, it should be one law. I think that is something we need to move toward. It's not going to be easy to do, but we have to take a few steps. And one of the first things we need to do is to look at all these laws which came in later, like the Hudud ordinances, and we particularly need to look at those laws under which these actions such as honor killings and others are being justified and accepted in society. Why is society accepting them? Because there's no debate about them.
As a law enforcement person, how do you see this happening? Do you think that it's possible to actually move towards something like this?
Yeah, I think so. We are already gradually moving towards that. Giving you an example from say Balochistan. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the system there, that we had the A areas and the B areas there, and the A areas was administered by the police, and the B area by the levies. And so now we have changed that, and the FCR was applicable there, and so we have changed now. We have brought a lot of new districts under the police jurisdiction in Balochistan. So that's a step towards that, slowly and gradually trying to bring the police and making these from converting from B areas to A areas. And I think there's a lot of money which has been kept because it entails a lot of expenditure. So it's been done. So what I'm saying is it is being done on